Okay, I'm going to get started. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited about this because I just think that the dress is so lovely and it's really, really not too hard to make. And so I just get really excited at the thought of lots of other people wearing a lovely handmade dress. Sorry, I'm still letting people in at the same time. So I'm going to quickly, first of all, run you through what I'm going to do. I've muted you all so that there's no interference or anything, but if anybody has any questions, then you can please just pop them in the chat, or you're very welcome to unmute yourself and ask me if you prefer to do that. I've got a couple of cameras, so I'm going to try and show you all of the techniques kind of close up that I do as well. I've got a handout that I've written out and it's got every step in there for you as well. So after this session, you'll get the video, you'll get this video, and you'll also get that handout. So rather than try and make along with me today, it's much, much better for you to just kind of soak it all up, ask any questions that you might have, try and understand the process, because it's a slightly different way, because it's not using like a commercial pattern. It's a slightly different way of going about things. So I'd rather you kind of get your head around it, ask me any questions, and then rather than getting het up trying to do it all now at the same time, just do it all in your own time. You can always email me to ask me any questions if you get unstuck. And also I'm going to schedule another session in a couple of weeks' time, just so that if anybody has any questions or you've hit a hurdle that you don't want to ask me on an email, then we can go through those then as well. Those kind of follow-up sessions are usually quite useful. Okay. Sorry, there's still people joining. I'm still letting people in. So I'm going to get started. What I'm going to do first is, in fact, I'm sorry, someone else. There we go. Oh, someone else. Sorry, I'm trying to do that surreptitiously. What I'll do first is I'll share my screen and I'll show you how to make the pattern. So basically I'm wearing my one version of the dress. I made another one yesterday for my eldest daughter here, and I added a belt to it, which actually I loved on her. It looks so, so nice with a belt on it as well. So this is the dress. So it's really simple. It's basically a piece of fabric on the front, a piece of fabric on the back. It's made to measure, so we'll take all of your measurements. It's got pockets here. Oh, the belt isn't attached, so that's why it's falling down. It's got pockets here. You can make it whatever length you like. So yeah, and you can also make the neckline whatever sort of neckline you'd like as well. I'll go through all of that detail as I go through the process. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen to show you the handout, which kind of gives you an idea of what we do. Okay, some of this you can just ignore. I'm not going to go through some of it, you know, it's just kind of self-explanatory. I won't talk through all the different things that you need because you can look at that. Remember to pre-wash your fabric. We'll maybe know that by now. I generally pre-wash my fabric. Every now and then I don't, but you should always pre-wash your fabric because some shrinks more than others. So just wash it on the normal fabric setting that you're going, the normal washing setting that you're going to wash it on. And then that means that when you've made your dress with the pre-washed fabric, there'll be no shrinkage afterwards. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is take all of your measurements. So you're going to make the fabric pieces exactly to fit you. So everybody will be a slightly different size. So, oh, sorry, there's more people entering and I can't see. How do I do this? Oh, here we go. So first of all, the bust. So that's the fullest part of your bust here. And then your waist, which is the thinnest part, not where your waistband sits, but actually the thinnest part around your waist. And then the hips, which is the fullest part around your bottom. And then the other two bits that you need to measure are from your shoulder down to that hip point. So if you kind of keep your tape measure or whatever where that hip point is, or just kind of make sure that you know where that is, and then take your tape measure and go from the top of your shoulder down to that hip point on the front of your body. That is this measurement here. And then again, from that top of the shoulder point, go all the way down to wherever you want the hem to sit. So you can make this a nice long kind of midi dress, or even a longer dress than that if you'd like to. What you just need to do is make sure that that measurement is from the top shoulder down to wherever you want that hem to be. If you are doing it low, like on the knee or lower, I'll talk about this a bit later, but you'll have to have kind of side vents, so kind of slits up the side, which looks really nice, but otherwise you won't be able to walk properly. So you just need to remember that. I do talk about that when you come to that point, I think. If not, I'll add it in. So that's the first thing you need to do. Really important is note down those measurements. And once you've got those, you go to the magical spreadsheet, which is going to tell you how to make your pattern. I've got a little bit of information there on the types of fabrics that I think work the best. So this one I made out of double gauze, which worked really beautifully because it's lovely, soft, quite drapey cotton. I always prefer working with like cotton and linen, because it's just, I find that they're a little bit more robust. They're not too slinky, so for beginners they behave quite well as fabrics, but they're still quite soft. So a gingham, a chambray would be lovely. A really nice kind of lightweight denim, so not like that jeans would be made out of, but like a really lightweight, you know, cottony denim would be lovely. Yeah, anything like that. I avoid anything too fine or silky and avoid stretch fabrics for now as well, unless you're, you know, really real dab hand. Okay, so next page starts to look a little bit more scary. Don't worry. What you do is you just click this link and it takes you to this wonderful, my screen share. I need to share again because it took you to a different screen. Hang on a moment. There we go. So if you click on that link, it takes you to this page, just to make things really nice and easy for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut. This is basically your fabric piece. Here it is. I've already pre-cut one for Florrie because she wants one as well, my youngest daughter. She also asked me to cut one out for her new toy bunny rabbit, which I did. And I thought, oh, do you know what? I think that will actually be really handy to show them because it's nice and small. So this is one for a toy rabbit. So basically it's these two pieces here, which are the dress. It's quite a short and wide rabbit, as you can see. So that's what we're aiming for the front and back. But what you're going to do is just pop your measurements in here, and then it will self-populate down here to show you exactly what size to cut your front and back fabric pieces out at. So I've got Florrie, my youngest daughter's measurements here. She's only 9, so she's not very busty, but she's got 64 there. And then her waist was 58. And this is all in centimeters. Her hips are 68. Shoulder to hips was 44. And then shoulder to hem was 67. So literally, if you save this document out, you just click File and then make a copy. And then that will save that onto your system, whatever system you're working from. And then you can use this as many times as you like. You can save a copy for yourself, save a copy for whoever else, make as many versions of this as you like. And then you've always got it to refer back to make the patterns. So I've put her measurements in there. And then if I scroll down, I can see now that that's automatically populated what I need to cut my fabric out at. So I'm going to cut out this piece of fabric now, like live, so that you can see how that's done. So I can get my camera ready up here as well. I think that should be okay. Get my fabric ready, which is here. And then you'll be able to see, hopefully, if this isn't making sense to anybody as I'm going along, please say. Or likewise, because it is a different way of doing things, the first time you might be a bit like, oh God, I'm getting in a bit of a fluster. I promise you, once you've made it once with this method, it will all just kind of click and you'll be like, oh, brilliant. Yes, of course. And any future ones that you make, you'll find much, much easier. Okay, just make a little bit of space. So the first, so it's on the fold here. So I'm just going to keep this screen up for now so that I can just show you everything. So I want to fold my fabric. So I've got my long piece of fabric. I'm going to make a fold like this, and I can see that that's the widest fold part of the fabric is 22 centimeters. So I want to make sure that I fold it across at least 22 centimeters, this bit down here. You can see that. I'm just going to measure nearly 22. There we go. That'll be right. So I'm just going to fold that down. Okay, and now I'll just swap my screen so that you can see. Stop screen share. Oh, there's some chat. I didn't see it. No, I haven't already sent out the handout. I'm going to send it straight afterwards. I did think about sending it before, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I don't want to confuse you. I'd rather just tell you about it first so that you're not kind of looking and jumping from one thing to the other. That's why I've not sent it yet. Right, let me share my other camera now. Okay, so I folded my fabric across like this. It's not exactly, oh, that's better. I want you to see this end. Okay, right. So on my, I have to do double screen things so I can still see the measurements. Okay, there we go. Okay, oops, someone else has joined. Okay, so I've got on this slightly awkwardly shaped rectangle, the length needs to be 74.5 centimeters. So I'm going to, on the folded side, just get my tape measure and mark. I'll just mark with pins for now, 74.5 centimeters from this point here. So that's going to be the top. We'll go down to 74.5 here. Okay, so I know that that's the top and that's the bottom of the rectangle. So actually, do you know what? I could cut across those two bits now if I wanted to. Or if you wanted to, you could just draw lines down here. Might do that. Don't have any tailor. Do I? Or do I have tailor's chalk handy? Hang on a moment. Yes, I do. Got the tailor's chalk here. So I'm going to draw with my invisible ruler a line down there for the bottom. Obviously, you would do this with a ruler. I'm trying to keep my desk as clutter-free as possible. Okay, and then along the top, the measurement was 21 centimeters, and you want to measure that 21 centimeters from the folded edge out. So let's take the tape measure and do a mark at 21, just here. And then at the bottom, it was 22 centimeters. So again, I'm going to measure from the folded edge out, just like it's got on the diagram. So when you look at this in relation to the diagram, it will all make sense to you. And at 22 centimeters, do a line there. And then the other measurement was from the hips, sorry, from the shoulder down to the hips. So that's from the top down. So the last thing that we want to do is measure from the top. And that measurement for Florrie was 44 centimeters. So I just need to measure down 44. So I'm going to do one here. There we go. Now, what we need to make sure is at that 44 centimeter point, you're mimicking, and it's got a picture of this nice and clearly on the diagram, the amount of space from the fold outwards is the same as it is at the bottom. So that was 22 centimeters. So I'm also just going to double check and make a nice mark here at 22 centimeters as well, which is just there. Okay, and then you just need to join up those dots, join up those markings. So you can join up these two. So that that's 22 centimeters out from the hips to the bottom. And then this one will just be very, very slightly angled, barely at all, because there's only 1 centimeter in it. You can just then join up those two as well. Oh gosh, try very carefully to do it neatly. Yay, pretty much. There we go. Okay, so that's the shape of the dress. So I'm going to cut that out very quickly. Not in quite an awkward fashion, but I just want to make sure that you can sort of see what's going on. There we go. Then up the side. So what you need to do then is replicate this. So what you could do is, if you wanted to, fold your fabric over so you're doing 2 at once. But you know what? It doesn't take that much time. And once you've done one, you can just pop it over your fabric and use the first one as a template. Diana, sorry, I missed the beginning. Does the length you want make any difference? No, the length. So as long as you've got your hip measurement, that's the widest point. So you'll go down from there. If you want it to be slightly flared out, you can flare it out very slightly if you wanted to. But I personally would, if I'd personally do it with like side slits up the sides to sort of say just about knee height, knee length, and then you'll be able to walk properly. But no, Diana, the technique is exactly the same, whatever length you would like. And yeah, you have got a lovely workbook, thanks Zoe, so that will talk you through all of different processes. So you've got your piece of fabric now, so let me go back to my screen share so that you can see how that relates. There we go. So this piece of fabric is basically the same as that piece of fabric. So as you can see, that's really, it makes it nice and straightforward for you. So it's a slightly different technique to what you might be used to, but actually it's really not that hard once you've got your head around it. I've also done the formulas down here, just in case you want to see those as well. And those formulas are also on the handout. But it's much easier, if you can, just to type your dimensions. So save this out to your computer, type your dimensions in there, and then it will just self-populate in here, and then you can see it. Okay, so back to the, what shall I go back to now? Back to me. And let me just bring up the handout again so I don't miss anything as well. Sorry. I'm really nervous about missing anything out for you, so I just want to make sure I go through it all properly. Oops, it's not there. Here it is. Okay, so that's what you do first of all. And then what you need to do is cut the, so make some kind of cuts, change your base kind of basic pattern pieces to add your neckline, and also kind of mark where the arms guys are going to be as well. So you'll have 2 identical pieces of fabric just like this, but one of them is going to be the front and one of them is going to be the back. But you also need to cut your, sorry, it's really hot in here. I'm going to open my window quickly. Before I melt. You also need to cut your pattern, your pocket pieces, but that's dead easy. That's just 2 20 by 28 centimeter squares, but I've got that on the handout for you. And then you just kind of slice off the, this is the dolly one, slice off the corner of the pocket like that, but the dimensions for that are all on the handout. And so other than that, you just need to, on the main fabric pieces, cut the neckline, sorry, and the shoulder slope as well. So let me show you on the handout what that looks like. Here we go. So for the neckline, you want to just cut that on the front piece. So what you want to do is have a think about how I quite like just a kind of a round, not a scoop neck, but it's not a crew neck either. It's probably somewhere in between. So that's what I've chosen to do, but you need to measure down how far down you'd like the scoop to be. So the best way to do that, I think, is to find another item of clothing that you really like the neckline of and just measure how far down it goes from the kind of the top of the shoulder point down to the base of the front of the neck point. I chose 12 centimeters just as a guide. That's what this one is, but you know, you can experiment and it's totally up to you. There is an option, obviously, once you've cut your fabric, you can't add any more back on, so I would probably err on the side of caution, because there is an opportunity to make it, to kind of try it on and make it slightly deeper if you want to at a later stage in the sewing. So you need to think about that. You also need to think about the neckline width. So some people might want it a bit more boaty than others. Because there's no fastening, you need to make sure that this fits over your head. So I went for a width of 10, I suggested 10 to 12 centimeters. So that would make it sort of 20 to 24 centimeters in total across here. I chose 10 centimeters for mine, I think, from the fold to the outside bit there. So you need to have a think about that. And then the slope for the shoulders should be pretty much the same, because this is a very forgiving, kind of quite a boxy style. If you've got particularly slopey shoulders, you might want to add a little bit more onto that, but I would suggest 4 centimeters here. And then for the arms guide depth, you need to measure. And again, don't worry about being too precise with this just yet, but you need to measure from the top of your shoulder down to underneath where your kind of the bottom of your armpit bit is, and then add on 6 centimeters, and then that'll give you plenty. So let me show you how you would now do that. Oh, and here's the pocket bit. Look, so 20 by 28 centimeters, and then I've just shown you how to cut the corner off as well. So that's your 2 pocket pieces. So once you've done those and this, then that's all the cutting out. And to be honest with you, that's kind of like usual with sewing and dressmaking. Actually, the measuring and the cutting, it can take as long, if not longer, than the actual sewing, especially with this pattern. So once you've done that bit, you're all sorted. So let me just talk through this bit a little bit more in detail and show you that on my camera. There we go. Okay. Just bring my other bit up as well. Hang on a moment. Right. There we are. Oh, perfect. That worked a treat. Okay, so we've got the top of the dress here on the fold. So at the top, on the folded edge, you need to measure the depth of your, can you all see that okay? I don't know if I'm central. Yeah. The depth of your neckline. So just on the front, remember. So remember I said that was, I think I chose 12 centimeters. Yes, I did. So you literally just measure from the top down 12 centimeters and mark that there like that. Oh, hang on, this is for Florrie. I think she might want it a little bit less. She's only tiny. Let's do 9 for Florrie. And then for the neckline width, between 10 to 12, again, because it's for a 9-year-old, I'm actually going to reduce that down to about 8. Because I've written the pattern a bit more for grown-ups than I have for children, like that. And then, but say that, so that'll be 10 to 12 for you. So that's from the fold out. So this is then going to be the neckline. So what you can start off by doing, if you wanted to do is just join up those 2 points and cut straight, and then we can turn it into a curve in a minute. But I'll show you how to turn it into a curve. And then it's just the slope of the shoulder. So that would be 4 centimeters, but because she's only Diddy, I might just do it as 3. I'll join that up as well. Okay, so then you can cut those pieces out and you'll start to see it form the shape of the front of the dress. So this is going to be the shoulder slopes. And then for the neck, so you could do a V if you'd like to, but I prefer it with a curved neck. So what I'm going to do is just join up these two curves. What you need to make sure of when you're joining up curves is that you always do a little bit of straight. You don't go straight into a curve, because if you go straight into a curve, it will actually end up as a V. So I'm going to go straight first and then just join up those two like that. If you want to, quite a good thing to do again is just get another top that you really like the shape and depth of the neckline of, and just mimic those. There we go. So this now is going to be the front of her dress. Can you see? There we go. On the back, you need to do exactly the same, but obviously not this scoopy neckline. So you just need to measure the width, not the depth, just the width, and that shoulder slope on the back as well. And then for the arm sky, that was the, you just need to mark those on the sides here. So your shoulder to your armpit plus 6 centimeters. There we go. So that is fabric prepared. You need to make those marks on the front and back as well. Okay. That was the meatiest bit. Wow. Sorry, hang on a sec. Just want to change my... Oh, there we go. Right, any questions on that? I mean, you might have questions that come when you're actually cutting your fabric out. If you do, just email me and that's fine. I'll get back to you. So let me blitz through. Okay, we're halfway through. Perfect. I'm going to blitz through the actual making up. Okay, so you should have now 4 pieces of fabric. So the fabric, the dress front, the dress back, and the 2 pocket pieces. So do you know what? I was going to make the flory one. I might just make the dolly one. No, I'm going to make the flory one because it might, sometimes it's super fiddly if it's really little. Yeah, okay. Right, so here I've got Florrie's pre-cut in different fabric. That's her 2 pocket pieces. That's her front. And that's her back. Okay, so the very first thing you need to do is place the front and back on top of each other. So I've done French seams for the shoulder seams and the side seams. I really like sewing with French seams. That's another reason not to have too heavyweight a fabric, because it means that you've got no raw edges. You don't have to do any finishing or anything like that. All of the raw edges are hidden. It just is much neater. I always kind of try and do that if I can. So the very first thing that you need to do is pin together your dress at the shoulder seams with the wrong sides facing. So that's like this and like this on both the shoulder seams, and then stitch those together with a 0.5 centimeter seam allowance. I'm just going to quickly do it on one side. Because then I can show you how it's all coming together and it will be nice and quick. Okay, so 0.5 centimeter seam allowance. I don't need to move my camera to show you this, I don't think. You can ask any questions in the meantime if you'd like to, though. You see the chat, yeah. Hope nobody's going to scrutinise my sewing. Speed sewing. Okay, so I've stitched the one shoulder seam together with 0.5 centimeter seam allowance. So if you do that on both sides, oh, someone else has joined. There we go. And then what you can do, so that I've done that on both sides, is slip that over your head and actually kind of put it on as a tunic. And then it's a really good opportunity just to double check that you think everything's in the right place. So there will be a slightly bigger hem along those shoulder seams, but only slightly. So it means you can just double check with it slipped over your head that the arm sky markings are in the right place, that you think it's going to fit around and everything. It should do absolutely fine because you've measured at the widest points and we've added on all of the correct seam allowances. So you should be absolutely fine. It's just a good opportunity then to double check that everything's in the right place. Then what you need to do is hem your pockets, because actually we sew those on at this point. Oh, I should have pre-hemmed one. Silly me. Never mind. So what you need to do is turn over a 1 centimetre seam allowance along this bit here, which is where your hand is going to go into the pocket. You need to press these as well. I'm obviously not going to press because, you know, time, space. But yours will be much neater because you'll have time to do all lovely sorts of things like that. So I'm going to turn over a 1 centimetre seam allowance all the way around, except on that short vertical outer edge. It'll all become clear to you in a mo. Whoops. Okay, so this is now the pocket with hem folded over on every edge except for that one. And that's because this outer edge here is going to be caught in the side seam, side hem, and then that's where you put your hand in. So then I'm just going to catch that. Well, let's say I am, but I'm going to sew. What you're going to do is sew all the way around here, and actually sew quite close to that inner edge, the raw edge of the fabric, because you're going to sew it like that. And then what you do is place it onto your fabric and sew another line on the outer edge. So it's kind of got that sort of double jean stitching. If you don't want to do that, you don't need to. You could just press it, but you must, whatever you do, sew a line at this point down this diagonal bit here, because otherwise that will just be loose and flapping because that's open to put your hand in. So you need to do that at this point for the 2 pockets. And then whilst you've still got your dress on as a tunic, you can just double check where you'd like those pockets to sit nice and comfortably. So you want them to be so that when your hand's in them, you know, your arms can kind of still be very slightly bent. You don't want to have to lean down to where your pockets are. So I think the best way to do that is at this point with it over your neck, just to double check that it's in the right place for you, because that's going to be different for absolutely everybody because our arms are all different lengths. So then once you've done that, you can pin your pockets in place. So I'm going to try and do it with this camera actually, because I think it's a bit easier. So this is the front here, and this is the pocket which we haven't, but you have stitched around the outside hems. And then you need to pin it in place wherever was comfortable for you. So let's say that is here for Florrie. I'm going to pin it just onto the front piece of fabric. You don't want to pin through the back because obviously you're just attaching it to the front. I can do that for you now and then you'll be able to see. I should have done it with contrasting fabric. You could do it with contrasting pockets anyway though, couldn't you? That would look nice, especially if it was for a kiddie one. Or say you were doing it with like a nice light denim and then you could have contrasting fabric for the pockets. That would look really nice. Okay. Nearly done. Oops, that's where I found up and pinned it through loads of layers rather than just one. Oops. Okay, so you obviously do that for both pockets. So hem them around the outside, apart from that short vertical outer edge, and then pin them in position. Make sure that they're exactly the same position on both sides. So I'd measure it, get one right, and then measure the other one to make sure it's exactly the same. And then you've got your pockets pinned in place like this. Oh, I did catch it, the very last pin. There we go. So this is the front of your dress, and let's say we've got 2 pockets in place like this. There we go. And it's going to be caught down the sides here, so that's fine. So that's the next step. And then you can actually kind of turn it into a dress. So what you need to do then is create the French seams along the shoulders and down the sides. So we've already got the first bit of the French seam done for the top. So what you need to do then is turn it inside out. And then if you press it at this point, so that your hem is nicely pressed flat, and then pin it again. And this time you're going to stitch down that hem again, but with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. So the first time you did it was with 0.5 centimetres. And then the second time we're going to do it is with 1 centimetre. So that means that all of those raw edges will be nice and neatly encased within that hem there. So I'll quickly stitch that now on the machine just to show you. Okay, done. So there we go. That's like that. Nice and neat, no raw edges, nothing to fray, nothing to catch you. If we turn it back around to the right side again, you can see you've got a lovely, nice, neat shoulder seam. So you want to do that on both sides. And then you also want to do that whole process down, so both shoulders, that whole process down both of the side seams as well. So you want to start at that point that you've marked on your fabric for the bottom of the arm. And then sew all the way down to the bottom, catching the pocket in here as you go down. Oops, it should happen nice and naturally. So first of all, you do your hem wrong sides together, put your fabric wrong sides together, just like you did for the shoulder seams. I'm going to do this one as well, because then I can show you how to do your arms, because that's a tiny bit fiddly, not too bad. Right, so I'm going to first of all stitch wrong sides together with a 0.5 centimetre seam allowance from the bottom, catching the pocket, and then all the way up to that arm sky mark. Whoops. There we go. And then once you've done that, you see that? I'm going to turn it inside out, just the same, exactly the same way as I did for the shoulder seam. Press it and now stitch with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. Quickly do that now. How are we doing? Oh, we're doing well. Great. This is good. Because once you've actually done this step, you've kind of got a dress. No, I've not pressed it out. This is not going to be my finest sewing hour, but you know. Okay, up to the same point that you stitched before. And then actually what you can do is sew across. I'll show you on my stitching in a moment. Okay. So there we go. Nice, another French seam, no raw edges on the inside. And if we turn it the right side out, there we go. There's the side seam, and here's the armhole, and here's the pocket, which has still got loads of pins in, but yours won't. There we go. Let me pin the other shoulder seam together so that it hangs properly. So I've only stitched one side. There we go. Okay, so here we go. We can see with the top, here's down the side here, and you can see that the pocket is all good to go. Okay. Now we'll do the neckline. So at the moment, oh, actually, I've already done it in this one. You'll see once you've sewn it together, there's a slight differentiation in where the back neckline kind of, can you see? It's not a straight line anymore. So what you need to do is just kind of even that out. And also, I think it's quite nice to just do a little bit of a dip on the back of the neckline as well, so it doesn't go straight across. So just by about 1 centimetre at the deepest point, maybe 2 if you want. But you just need to, you can just do that manually. So you can just cut off where it's kind of not joining up anymore here. You can see that the back comes out a bit further up than the front. You can just trim that at a nice even diagonal manually yourself like this, just to join it up. And that's normal, that's meant to happen. So don't worry if you've got that and it's not joining up anymore. It's fine. Okay, so there we go. So that's now a nice even line all the way around the neck. And what you need to do then is actually sew the neckline. Now I've made another example for this. I've talked about this technique before, so I don't know if you've joined any of my other workshops, you might know about it, but the can do facings and all of that kind of jazz. But do you know what? This dress wanted to keep it nice and simple, so we're not going to do a facing. We're just going to do a really almost like a rolled hem, like a really small hem. And what you need to do first of all is around your neckline. So I've not used my coloured thread, isn't different as I want it to be. Yeah, hopefully you can see. So 1 centimetre in from, sorry, 1.5 centimetres in from the raw edge. It is petal and pip fabric. 1.5 centimetres in, I'm trying to get it so that there we go, the light's not on it. 1.5 centimetres in from the raw edge all the way around that neckline, around the curve. You want to sew a line of stitching, an even 1.5 centimetres all the way around, like that, and make your stitches slightly longer than usual. And that does this kind of crazy magic thing where it just makes your neckline sit really neatly, and it means you don't have puckers and you can just fold it really easily. So I've got the line of stitching here, and then I'm going to fold it first of all, and I usually kind of just do it in places around the neckline first and then kind of join them up. So I'll do it here first of all, fold the outer edge up to that line of stitching and then fold again on the line of stitching and just pop a little pin in there and just keep doing that all the way around. So I'll do it again, maybe over here. So I'll fold up to the line of stitching and then fold again on the line of stitching. And what you can do then is once you've finished sewing the neckline is just remove that line of basting stitching at the end. I mean, sometimes you can not see it if you do it the same color and you don't even need to bother doing that, but you probably, you know, if you want to be a perfectionist about it. So keep folding down to the line of stitching and then down again. And then you'll see that actually, I mean, you'll want to press it, but what that does, it means that it just makes the fabric behave really beautifully. You might need to kind of help it around some of the corners, but once you've pressed it, and certainly once you've stitched it, you should find that then you have a really nice and neat neckline. It's great. So once you've done the pressing and the pinning like this all the way around, you can just stitch probably about 2 or 3 millimeters in from this folded edge here all the way around the neckline. And then honestly, you'll step back and you'll be really proud of yourself because it's so much neater than what you thought it was going to be. It's great. Such a nice technique. So that's what you need to do for the neck. And then the penultimate step, oh my gosh, guys, we are doing great for time. The penultimate step is the arms. Okay, I've made more demo bits for this. So the arms, where have I got? Okay, great. Oh, I should have done. No, do you know what? I can use the one that we've done. Okay, so we want to take all of these pins out. They're getting in the way a little bit of the pocket. So what we want to, so it's a little bit funny at the moment. You've got this, because you've done a French seam down here and kind of under the armpits, it's going to be a bit tricky to fold a hem over. So what you need to do is make a little snip. I think I am going to change to my other camera actually, so that I can really try and show you. Okay, here we go. Try and get really close. Okay, so here's the armhole here. So this is the top shoulder seam with the French seam here. And then so this is where your arm goes through, and this is the bottom bit here. And again, because it's a French seam, normally what you'd do is you'd fold your fabric over twice this way towards the wrong side, but because we've done a French seam, the fabric's kind of facing the wrong direction. So you need to make a couple of little snips in your fabric. Now, I told you that I did this, but I didn't actually show you. But when I was sewing up that second line of stitching for my French seam, when I got to the top, I actually did a little line of stitching across to kind of mark the top of where that French seam bit is. And I did that because we're going to cut the fabric slightly. It just gives it a little bit of extra reinforcement. So it's quite a good idea to do that. And then what you can do is on one side, which side? On the back. On the back, you can just cut. So I'm opening out my seams at the moment. You can just cut across like that, but just by 0.5 centimeters with really rubbish scissors. There we go. So I'm just, is that the top for a French seam on? Yes, it is. All of this is on the notes. Yeah. Oh, and for the dress I'm wearing, Maria, I'll send a link to the fabric because I've got a code for 15% off from the fabric shop that I got this fabric from. It's just a lovely 100% linen from Fabrics Galore. I'll send it on the follow-up email so that I'll send you a link to the exact one that I've used with the discount. Okay, so on the back, I've just cut 0.5 centimeters. So that kind of frees up that bit of fabric. And on the front, you want to cut across with that 0.5 centimeters, but actually you want to keep going. And you also want to cut across to where this line is as well on the front, like that. So you've cut across 0.5 centimeters on the back just here, and on the front it's actually 1.5 centimeters. And that I'll show you, I'll turn it out the right way. And like many things, you'll be thinking, what on earth is she playing at? But when I show you the right way around, you'll be like, oh yeah, actually that makes perfect sense. So now what that does is that enables us to fold the fabric the right way. So we can fold it a double hem towards the wrong side around the whole of the armhole. And the reason I did it with only a little bit on the front, back and more on the front, is because we want to have the French seam facing towards the, oh, did I do it the wrong way? Whatever it is, it's correct on your handout, the front or the back, I can't remember, but you basically want to have the French seam facing towards the back. So obviously if I open out the armhole like this, and I'm going to, there we go. It means that you can have the, there we go, you can have the French seam facing that way, but you've still got enough fabric on this side to do a double fold, and enough fabric this side to do a double fold as well. Okay, so let me open up the armhole and show that to you. So I'm going to do a double, what do I say to do? I just say to do a double hem actually around here, and I don't say how much because you kind of work it out as to how much fabric you've got here with your French seam. But here we go. So it's about a double, well, it should be the double 0.75 centimeter, I guess, because it's 1.5 centimeter seam allowance altogether. But what you want to do is pin that all the way around the armhole, like this, And because you have, and at the top as well, it's best to have your French seam facing towards the back rather than the front. So just keep going all the way around. Oh golly, I'm glad I didn't do it on the blimmin' toy bunny rabbits one. It would have been a nightmare to try and show you. It's fiddly enough with this one. I'll do a bit more. Oh, what's this question? No, you don't need to stitch the armhole first, because I'll show you again on mine in a mo when I'm wearing it, but it's not a curved seam. It's a straight seam that goes straight down. So it means that you don't need to do that sort of stay stitching at the beginning, because there are no curves to go around. So it's nice and easy. Okay, just finish this off. So once you've pinned around the armhole like this, you can just stitch. Oh, I'm doing a terrible job of this. I think I've gone a bit off-piste with my seam allowances. Here we go. There we are. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so now what you would do is sew all the way around that armhole, just about maybe a kind of just in from that inner folded edge all the way around like that with one seam, and then you'll have your nice arm hole like this. You can see at the moment it's nice and neat because it's been folded in, but that would be stitched as well. And I'll go back to, actually I'll get Lyra's dress that I made yesterday so that you can see. There we go. There's Lyra's. She's already worn it a couple of times. So it probably needs another press, but you can see. So the reason why you don't need to do your stay stitching on here is because it's just a nice straight kind of boxy shape. Whereas with this, it's obviously curved. So you do need to do it around there. So that's the armhole. And then the final thing, I think, just check I'm not forgetting anything, is the hem. So you just put it on. And you can check it against another garment if you prefer, or if you've got nobody else to help you, or it's tricky with a mirror or whatever. And so put the dress on and mark and pin, and then press the bottom hem. Always do a double hem. So you should have enough to do a, I can't remember what's amount I said for the hem, but it's got it on the handout, but kind of usually like a double 3 centimeter hem, so 3 centimeters then 3 centimeters again. I think it's quite nice to have a bit of a chunkier hem along the bottom because it just adds a little bit of weight, makes it hang nicely, and it means also if you ever want to make any adjustments, you've got a little bit of leeway to play with. So fold that, pin that, just double check again wearing it that you're happy with it, and then stitch that again towards the top of the inside fold. And then if you'd like to make a belt, which honestly, I think I'm going to do that for this one. So you've got the option then to wear it with or without the belt. I just cut a long strip of the fabric out. This one I did for Lyra was about 110 centimeters, but she's only 12, quite a lot skinnier. So I'd probably do it a minimum of 120, just double check it goes around your waist and you've got plenty to tie and have nice little bits hanging down. But so I did 110 or 20 centimeters wide by 20 centimeters, no, sorry, 10 long by 10 centimeters wide. I cut points on the end because I thought that would look quite nice. Then I literally just folded all of the edges in, you know, so this was it. So fold the long edges in and the short edges in like that by 1 centimeter, and then fold it in half lengthways. Then it looks like this, and then you can just stitch all the way down the open edge like that to make a nice long belt. You can make belt loops if you'd like to, but I don't think there's any need, and it means then that you've got the option of wearing it with or without the belt if you'd like to. How would you go about, sorry, hang on a mo. Oh, slits, yes. Right, so if you'd like side slits, if you've got it longer on the knee or longer, I would say you will need side slits. So I would sew down the side seams to where you think the slits will need to go, and then you can do that. You know, you do 2 steps with your French seams. So first of all, you do it the wrong sides together. So I'd sew down the sides first of all with the wrong sides together, and then try it on, have a little jog around, see if you're happy with where you've put the slits going up to, and if you are, then finish your French seams, so turn it inside out and do that other line of stitching down the sides as well. You could even check it when you put it on as a tunic at the beginning to check where your pockets go if you wanted, but you'd need to check it on again with the first step of the side French seams done, so that you can see how much you can run. And then once you've done the French seams like that, you do exactly the same technique that you did here for the armholes. So do little snips, 0.5 centimeters to the back, 1.5 centimeters to the front. So your snips go kind of meet each other in the middle, and then fold over twice again down for the bottom, for the side bits, for the slitty bits. Exactly the same technique as it is for the arms that we just did. And then do the bottom hem after that. Yeah, no different for the technique. Oh my God, that's it. I can't believe that. Literally can't believe that we've fitted all of that into the time. The only other thing you need to do is trim off all of your bits of threads and just press it. But that's it. Oh my gosh. Right, please hit me with your questions, because I'm here. Or you might not have questions until you get started, which I completely understand, because it's different once you get cracking, in which case just email me. But does anyone have any questions now? No? Okay, well, I'm going to send you an email. Okay, here we go. Oh, excellent question, Linda. Yes. So, do you give guidelines for the amount of fabric required? Okay, ouch. So when you, let me find the right image. When you've cut your fabric out, so yeah, or when you filled in this document that shows you, sorry, it's hard to move stuff on my screen because I've got my Zoomy stuff open as well. When you've so you've got this kind of populated on that spreadsheet that I gave you the link to, then you'll know exactly what the length is of the fabric and what the width of the fabric, actually it's this one down here, is as well, whichever is the wider. Actually, some people might have it wider at the top than at the bottom. So the wider of A or D by the length here. So this will be you need at least this. So say this was like 80 centimeters. You're like, okay, I need at least 1 meter long. Then this, whichever is the wider of A or D, you need that times 4 for the width, because that's essentially, let's get the baby bunny one out again. So it's this, and then another one next to it like this as well. So if you get those dimensions, then you'll know how much fabric you need, because also it depends on whether you've got 110 centimeter wide or 140 centimeter wide fabric, but you'll know then that you've got those 2 rectangles and how you can fit them onto a piece of fabric. You've got the 2 pockets to worry about as well, so that's 2 20 by 30 centimeter squares, so you need to figure those out too, but it's just rectangles, so you should be able to figure out fairly easily how much fabric you need at that point. Does that make sense?
Since it's so weird anyway.
Any more questions? Let's have a look. Brill, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, how do you need from the bottom of the armhole where it meets French seam? It actually works out pretty neat. I've got an example here that I've done. So can you put a short sleeve in? You could put a short sleeve in, but do you know what? I wanted to make this one so nice and easy that you didn't have to worry about sleeves. Let me just do one question at a time. So here, I'll show you. so this is I haven't done it. Imagine this is the neckline at the top, but I just wanted to show you how it is actually super neat. So that's it on the outside and that's it on the inside. So you don't need to do anything else to neaten it. The French seam will automatically sit to this side that you've only cut it a little bit on here. If you wanted to, you could do a line of stitching along there as well, just to hold everything down. But it's yeah, super neat. You don't need to worry. That's plenty. Merchant and Mills linen would be beautiful. 185 linen. I don't know exactly what 185 is. I'm sorry, but you know, I'm sure they would be very soft and lovely. How do you go over finish the top of the side slits? So you could, again, so that would be essentially exactly the same, but the other way around. Here's your side slits. So I probably would actually, in fact, I definitely would, because you're going to be walking and there might be a little bit more kind of impact on this slit. I would do a line, literally just do a line of sewing across there like that, just to give it a little bit of extra reinforcement. Okay. Oh, I'm glad you can see. Yes, well, this is a perfect way to show you how it's exactly the same as the sleeve, isn't it? It's exactly the same. Okay, right, I'm going to send out, if there's no more questions, I'm going to send out the handout now. I'll also send out the video. I'll send out a link to the fabrics and anything else that I think of. But yeah, please, will you send me your photographs? Because honestly, it just makes me so happy. I can't tell you, to see people wearing the things that they've made. It's such a great feeling. But yeah, and any other questions, please just email me. And thank you so much. Hope you've enjoyed yourselves. I have. I've loved it. And yeah, see you all again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.